The head of the UN's nuclear authority says Iran has started cooperating with a long-running inquiry into its disputed nuclear program. IAEA Director General Yukiya Amano met with Iranian officials, including the president, in Tehran on Sunday to discuss the issue. Iran denies its program has any military objectives. It has a week to clear up the decade-old allegations. We can now speak to Reza Marashi. He's in Washington, D.C. He is the research director at the National Iranian-American Council and was formerly at the U.S. Office of Iranian Affairs. Thanks very much for joining us. So does this essentially clear up concerns over the military dimension of Iran's nuclear program?
It doesn't fully clear up all of the concerns just yet, Mariam, but it's an important step in the right direction. Another important step in the right direction. If nothing else, seeing the IAEA chief in Tehran for the second time in a year is further proof that diplomacy is continuing to bear fruit.
Still major gaps remaining, though, over the future scope of Iran's uranium enrichment program. That seems to be where the big obstacle lies, Reza. How difficult will it be to reach a deal on that?
That's a great question. It certainly is one of the biggest remaining obstacles, and I give both sides credit because they've been quite honest about the fact that that obstacle exists. But what they're not saying, and what is absolutely true, is that there are technical solutions to all of the outstanding issues that prevent both sides from reaching an agreement. It's going to take leaders that are willing to take the political risks necessary for peace to prioritize the political solution that they'll inevitably have to sell at home that will make the technical solutions possible.
Is President Obama willing to take those risks?
I think so far we've seen a President Obama in his second term that has gone much further than any other American president in recent memory, if not ever, in trying to solve U.S.-Iran relations and the toxicity that
Reza,
has existed.
Isn't that because progress has been so slow, if not non-existent, in the past?
That's certainly part of it. There's no question. The leaders that came before Obama, just like leaders that came before Rouhani, had been tepid at best in their efforts to try and resolve this conflict. Now, finally, we have leaders on both sides who are willing to take steps that their predecessors were not, and that's been vital up to this point.
But is President Obama going to try to convince Iran to give up uranium enrichment altogether?
No, I think that's a ship that sailed. Neither President Obama nor any other world leader that's seriously invested in this diplomatic process is trying to get Iran to stop uranium enrichment altogether. The goal is to figure out what a mutually agreeable solution would be that would cap Iran's uranium enrichment at a level that would not be potentially usable to develop a nuclear weapon. And that's what is important to understand.
How do you find that mutually agreeable solution to both sides when, just certainly from your perspective, I ask you this because you're based in the US and your experience on the Council, when President Obama is coming under pressure to take a tougher negotiating position?
Absolutely. There's spoilers on both sides. They certainly exist here in Washington as well. We know very well that they exist in Tehran. I think so far, though, President Obama has, while demonstrating a willingness to work with the Congress insofar as it helps the diplomatic process, he's also stood up to the Congress and other spoilers in Washington to say that if you're opposed to the diplomatic process, you should outline for the American people what it is you're in favor for, because there's war and there's diplomacy and there's really nothing else in between. So in that sense, he's gotten buy-in from the American people, and he has robust support, polls show, in his efforts to try and solve this conflict diplomatically.
Dynamics in the region mean that former enemies now have a common enemy in the form of the Islamic State group. How is that going to affect these nuclear talks?
Well, so far, both sides deserve credit because they've been able to separate the issues out and address them individually while prioritizing the nuclear issue. I think both sides would like to solve this issue and use it potentially as a springboard to address the Islamic State and other regional issues where interests overlap. I think right now, though, you're seeing some conversations take place. You're seeing some perhaps behind the scenes, underneath the radar collaboration at a very low level to perhaps avoid fighting one another in other areas, including in Iraq, places like that. But so far, all eyes are focused on the nuclear issue, and until it's solved, that's where they should be, because it's the 8,000-pound gorilla in the room.
Reza, thank you. Reza Marashi, Research Director at the National Iranian-American Council. Now, a powerful earthquake has caused widespread damage across western Iran. The 6